In 1927, Charles Lindbergh would become a global hero. He would complete the first solo non-stop flight from New York to Paris, and this would be in the spirit of St. Louis. Construction on Mount Rushmore would also begin, and Philo T. Farnsworth would begin transmitting some of the first electronic TV images. There was also the Great Mississippi Flood, which would be the largest river flood in U.S. history, and it would go on to devastate millions of acres. I'm sure there are many more significant events and things that would happen in the year of 1927. However, for one event, at least in my opinion, would occur on Lake Superior. On December 6th and into the early morning hours of December 7th, the lives of 22 people would tragically come to an end. The story of the SS Kamloops and her crew is a story of resilience and determination and survival, ultimately. What exactly happened on the night of December 6th or December 7th with her sinking will probably forever be a mystery. However, the lives of her crew, 22 of them, should not be forgotten. Her captain, William Bryan, first mate, Joseph Henry Genest, her chief engineer, Joseph Arthur or Art Hauman, head steward, Janet or Nettie Grafton, and finally, assistant stewardess, Alice Emma Bettridge, along with the other crew members aboard the SS Kamloops. These people would fight for survival off of Kamloops Point on Isle Royale. 9 of them would make it ashore on a lifeboat. However, the other 13 stayed behind on the ship, perhaps in hopes that she would make it through the terrible blizzard that would occur that night. Ultimately, they went down with the Kamloops, and the other 9 would also succumb to the elements of that terrible night. This is the story of the SS Kamloops, and more importantly, her crew. The Kamloops' beginnings would start in 1924. She was built for the Canada Steamship Line's Montreal. She was built by the Furnace Shipbuilding Company of Haverton Hill, and she would be a part of the great replacement of obsolete wooden package freighters across the Great Lakes. She was a steel northwestern type, or canaler. The Kamloops had a length of 250 feet. She had a width of 42 and a depth of 26. She would also be pushed along by a good old-fashioned triple expansion steam engine. She would usually operate between Montreal and the head of Lake Superior, and she would carry package freight, grain, flour, and other dry goods. Many a time she would also carry grain and flour specifically on her return journeys from her destinations. In the days when the Kamloops was operating on the Great Lakes, it was actually custom of the Great Lakes shipping companies to try and move as much freight and goods as they could before the winter season layup. This obviously being because of the wintry conditions, which would cause dangerous conditions for the ships out on the lakes. The owners of the Kamloops would operate her as late as possible into the season. Take from that what you will. Such an example, in 1926, during the end of the season, the Kamloops would actually get stuck in ice in the St. Mary's River. This actually would turn out to be one of the largest ice jams ever recorded in the history of the Great Lakes, and the Kamloops, along with over 100 other ships, would get stuck in ice. Aside from getting stuck in the ice on December 3rd, 1926, The Kamloops would actually go on to have a rather uneventful but good successful career, just over 3 years to be exact. However, everything would change for the Kamloops the following year on December 7th, 1927, as well as the lives of 22 people. The Kamloops would begin making her way up the Great Lakes in late November of 1927. She would be carrying a variety of different cargo aboard her, from paper-making machinery to coiled wire for farm fencing. She would also have shoes and food, dry goods as well aboard her. On December 1st, the Kamloops would call in at Courtwright, Ontario, and she would be topped off with a cargo of bagged salt. She would then depart and make her way up Lake Huron, passing through Sault Ste. Marie on December 4th. However, nobody could have guessed what would lay before the SS Kamloops out on Lake Superior. The Kamloops, along with other vessels that were assigned to Lake Superior runs for the last late season run, would encounter a terrible winter storm blizzard that would devastate Lake Superior. On December 5th, the SS Kamloops was seen heavily coated with ice and was making her way towards the southeastern shore of Isle Royale. This would be the last time anybody would see the Kamloops. The situation out on the lakes would grow to terrible conditions. This winter storm would rage from the 7th to the 8th of December, and then on the 9th, damage reports would begin flooding in. In total, 5 vessels would be declared a total loss, and the Kamloops would be one of them. By December 12th, the storm eventually had blown itself out. However, people were beginning to fear and wondered where was the SS Kamloops. She was now at this point overdue at Fort William, and a search would be organized and would begin on December 12th. People would speculate as to where the Kamloops was last seen around Isle Royale. However, people did not know for sure. More time would pass, and there wouldn't be a single trace of wreckage from the SS Kamloops, and hope was beginning to disappear from people, and a fear and dread began to sink in that the SS Kamloops may have been lost forever out on Lake Superior. Captain Gell, along with another tugboat captain, Sam Wright, were ready to start their very detailed search of the shore of Isle Royale. They were also ready to search the surrounding waters and islands between Port Arthur and the Big Island. They had to make absolute certainty of the fate of the SS Kamloops. Captain Sam Wright believed that the package freighter could possibly be found ice-locked on the inner side of Isle Royale, between Washington Harbor and Gull Rocks. This was a stretch of about 15 miles of sheer rock, though. However, there were several bays there that could be a possibility of where she was at. And then, by the beginning of the new year, there again was very little to no mention at all of the loss of the SS Kamloops. However, on May 26th, massive news had broke that a fisherman of Isle Royale had actually found bodies that were believed to belong to that of the SS Kamloops. News of this reached the newspapers in Kamloops News on May 26, 1928. The cutter Crawford was actually postponed from entering the dry docks in Duluth, and she was quickly dispatched to investigate these claims of 2 bodies that had been reported to have been found by David Lind. The 2 bodies were in fact that of the SS Kamloops, and then on June 4th an additional 6 more bodies were also found, again by fishermen. They were from the SS Kamloops. The bodies, however, were severely decomposed, and one of them appeared to be that of a woman. The first initial reports of the woman's body that was found was that she was found attired in nightclothes. This body was believed to be that of head stewardess Nettie Grafton of Southampton. However, the woman's body and identity was later confirmed to be that of Alice Emma Bettridge, the assistant stewardess, and this was confirmed by the fact that Miss Nettie Grafton actually had a set of false teeth, while Alice Bettridge had her natural teeth. A final ninth body was found some ways inland on Isle Royale. This was actually a good distance from shore, and the body was believed to be that of first mate Henrik Meierkord-Doppelgänger I. However, the body, when it was found, had no life belt, but one was found close by. People speculated that the first mate was able to make it to shore before removing his life belt, and then eventually he would succumb to the elements of the storm along with the others. More additional evidence gave rise to the belief that the 9 occupants that made it to Isle Royale actually made it safely aboard a lifeboat. There were also makeshift shelters on the island as well, along with supplies that the survivors had gathered. These 9 crew members would make it ashore on Isle Royale. However, 13 others, along with Captain William Bryan, would tragically go down with the SS Kamloops. Lastly here, in December of 1928, a trapper who was working at the mouth of the Agawa River would go on to find a bottle with a note in it. And the note, which was later confirmed by the family, was from that of Alice Emma Bettridge. For over 50 years, the Kamloops would be lost to time and mystery. However, in August of 1977, her wreck would finally be discovered by Ken Merriman and a team of divers. She was laying on the bottom of Lake Superior in more than 260 feet of water. Now, as for the story of how the SS Kamloops was found and what exactly laid within her, I would direct you to my interview with none other than Ken Merriman here that we had recently. In our interview, a 2-part series, Ken goes into the exact details of how they found the SS Kamloops, and when they finally discovered her, he also goes over what exactly he saw inside of her. I thank you everyone for joining me on this revisited episode of the SS Kamloops tragedy that happened on Isle Royale. This was about 98 years ago or so, and I know a lot of people have a strong passion and love for the Edmund Fitzgerald, and that's all well and good, as do I. But in particular for me, many of you know by now that I am fascinated and just I love the Kamloops. I love the crew. I love the story of their hardship and what they went through, and the Lord only knows what they went through exactly that night. And I just pray that this short video here, along with the interview that I had with Ken, can give these people some peace, and along with any surviving family members today, which I know there are, I pour my heart and soul into this video in particular, as it is a strong love and passion of mine. So, but I thank you everyone so very much in joining me on this episode and this revisit. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you also have any other additional information or questions or anything like that, constructive criticism is always welcome. I love it, I need it, and that's the only way this channel will grow and get better for future videos. So, but I thank you everybody so very much. in joining me on this episode. Again, all love and support goes to the crew members of the SS Kamloops and any surviving family members that are still alive today. May this honor you and honor your family members as well. And with that being said, guys, I will bring this video to an end. I thank you so very much in joining me on Songs of the Great Lakes, and do look forward again to the next episode in the future. God bless you all.